What reason specifically here? I don't want just a general answer here that there was a lot of workload and so forth, but what reason was given specifically by the CIA person responsible for putting that name on the watch list as to the failure to do so?
We're not putting the name on the watch list. Our judgment is in talking to everybody working at the time that there were uneven standards, poor training, and we didn't give them...
For that specific failure? All those reasons for that specific
Yes, sir,
failure?
we did not. Everybody, the people involved, or people who have access, who we've talked to, acknowledge that there were uneven practices, bad training, and a lack of redundancy. The fact that they were swamped does not mitigate the fact that we didn't overcome that with either redundancy, a separate unit, or better training.
Have you identified the person or persons who are responsible to put that name on the watch list?
We know who was working this case.
My question is, though, do you know the name or names of the persons who are responsible for putting those names on the watch list? That's my question.
Yes, sir, I think I have.
All right.
Why al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar came to California, we do not know for certain. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the organizer of the planes operation, explains that California was a convenient point of entry from Asia and had the added benefit of being far away from the intended target area. Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar were ill-prepared for a mission in the United States. Their only qualifications for this plot were their devotion to Osama bin Laden, their veteran service, and their ability to get valid U.S. visas. Neither had spent any substantial time in the West, and neither spoke much, if any, English. It would therefore be plausible that they or Khalid Sheikh Mohammed would have tried to identify in advance a friendly contact for them in the United States. In detention, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed denies that al-Qaeda had any agents in Southern California. We do not credit their denial. We believe it is unlikely that Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar, neither of whom, in contrast to the Hamburg Group, had any prior exposure to life in the West, would have come to the United States without arranging to receive assistance from one or more individuals informed in advance of their arrival. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed says that though he told others involved in the conspiracy to stay away from mosques and to avoid establishing personal contacts, he made an exception in this case and instructed al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar pose as newly arrived Saudi students and seek assistance at local mosques, counting on their breaking off any such relationships once they moved to the East Coast. Our inability to ascertain the activities of al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar during the first 2 weeks in the United States may reflect al-Qaeda tradecraft designed to protect the identity of anyone who may have assisted them during that period. Now, just to add to that, we do know that the lead imam at the mosque that al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar went to, which was the King Fahd Mosque, Fahd ultimately provided them room and board for the first 2 weeks. Now, the 9/11 Commission states that they don't know who provided them room and board. But now with the information that we have 20 years after the publication, we know for sure that it was Fahd ultimately. Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar were directed to enroll in English classes upon arriving in Southern California so that they could begin pilot training as soon as possible. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed claims to have steered the two to San Diego on the basis of his own research, which supposedly included coming through a San Diego phone book acquired at a Karachi flea market. Contradicting himself, he also says that, as instructed, they attempted to enroll in 3 language schools in Los Angeles. After the pair cleared immigration and customs at Los Angeles International Airport, we do not know where they went. They appeared to have obtained assistance from the Muslim community, specifically the community surrounding the King Fahd Mosque in Culver City, one of the most prominent mosques in Southern California. It is fairly certain that Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar spent time at the King Fahd Mosque and made some acquaintances there. One witness interviewed by the FBI after the September 11 attacks said he first met the hijackers at the mosque in early 2000. Furthermore, one of the people who would befriend them, a man named Modar Abdullah, recalled a trip with Hazmi and al-Mihdhar to Los Angeles in June when, on their arrival, the 3 went to the King Fahd Mosque. There, al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar greeted various individuals whom they appeared to have met previously, including a man named Kalam. In Abdullah's telling, when Kalam visited the Al Qaeda operatives in the motel that evening, Abdullah was asked to leave the room so that al-Hazmi, al-Mihdhar, and Kalam could meet in private. The identity of Kalam and his purpose in meeting with al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar remains unknown. To understand what al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar did in the first 3 weeks of the United States, evidently staying in Los Angeles, we have investigated whether anyone associated with the King Fahd Mosque assisted them. The subject had received substantial attention in the media. Some have speculated that Fahad al-Tamari, an imam at the mosque and an unaccredited diplomat at the Saudi Arabian consulate from 1996 to 2003, may have played a role in the helping of the hijackers establish themselves on their arrival in Los Angeles. Now, the diplomat at the Saudi Arabian consulate from 1996 to 2003 probably is Muwasset al-Jarrah. The person named Fahad al-Tamari is the one who had provided the first 2 weeks of residency for al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi. A well-known figure at the King Fahd Mosque and within the Los Angeles Muslim community, Fahad al-Tamari was reputed to be an Islamic fundamentalist and a strict adherent to Orthodox Wahhabi doctrine. Some Muslims concerned about his preaching have said he injected non-Islamic themes into his guidance at the King Fahd Mosque and had followers supporting of the events of September 11, 2001. Al-Tamari appears to have associated with a particularly radical faction within the community of local worshippers and had a network of contacts in other cities in the United States. After 9/11, al-Tamari's conduct was a subject of internal debate among some Saudi officials. He apparently lost his position at the King Fahd Mosque, possibly because of his immoderate reputation. On May 6, 2003, Fahad al-Tamari attempted to re-enter the United States from Saudi Arabia, but was refused entry based on a determination by the State Department that he might be connected with terrorist activity. When interviewed by both the FBI and the 9/11 Commission staff, Tamari had denied preaching anti-Western sermons, much less promoting violent jihad. More to the point, he claimed not to recognize either al-Hazmi nor al-Mihdhar. Both denials are somewhat suspect. He likewise denied knowing Omar al-Bayoumi, a man from San Diego we will discuss shortly, even though witnesses and telephone records established that the two men had contact with each other. Similarly, Fahad al-Tamari's claim not to know Modar Abdullah is belied by Abdullah's contrary assertion. On the other hand, al-Tamari undoubtedly met with and provided religious counseling to countless individuals during his tenure at the King Fahd Mosque, so he might not remember true transients like al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar several years later. Circumstantial evidence makes al-Tamari a logical person to consider as a possible contact for al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar. Yet, after exploring the available leads, we have not found evidence that al-Tamari provided assistance to the two operatives. We do not pick up their trail until after February 1st of 2000, when they encountered Omar al-Bayoumi and Kaysan bin Dan at a halal food restaurant on Venice Boulevard called the Mediterranean Cafe, a few blocks away from the King Fahd Mosque. Al-Bayoumi and bin Dan had both told us that they had driven up from San Diego earlier that day so that al-Bayoumi could address the visa issue and collect some papers from the Saudi consulate. Al-Bayoumi heard al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar speaking in what he recognized to be Gulf Arabic and struck up a conversation. Since bin Dan only knew a little Arabic, he had to rely heavily on al-Bayoumi to translate for him. Al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi said they were students from Saudi Arabia who had just arrived in the United States to study English. They said they were living in an apartment near the restaurant but did not specify the address. They did not like Los Angeles and were having a hard time, especially because they did not know anyone. Al-Bayoumi told them how pleasant San Diego was and offered them to help them settle there. The two pair then left the restaurant and went their separate ways. Omar al-Bayoumi and Kaysan bin Dan have been interviewed many times about the February 1st, 2000 lunch. For the most part, their respective accounts corroborate each other. However, al-Bayoumi has said that he and bin Dan attempted to visit the King Fahd Mosque after lunch but could not find it. Bin Dan, on the other hand, recalls visiting the mosque twice that day for prayers, both before and after the meal. Bin Dan's recollection is spotty and inconsistent, Al-Bayomi's vision can be challenged as well, since the mosque is close to the restaurant and al-Bayomi have visited and the surrounding area on multiple occasions, including twice within 6 weeks of February 1st. We do not know whether the lunch encounter occurred by chance or design. We know about it because al-Bayomi told law enforcement that it happened. Now, with information that we know now, we know that both al-Bayomi and Qasem bin Laden came from the King Fahd Mosque to the Mediterranean Cafe. We get it now from the FBI's own interviews of both men. We also get it through Operation Encore, which was a follow-up to the original FBI pent bomb investigation. That Qasem bin Laden also told investigators that they were in the restaurant first and then walked in al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi. But al-Bayomi basically states that al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar were already in the restaurant when al-Bayomi and Qasem bin Laden walked in. Al-Bayomi, then 42 years old, was in the United States as a business student supported by a private contractor for the Saudi Civil Aviation Authority, where al-Bayomi had worked for over 20 years. The object of considerable media speculation following 9/11, he now lives in Saudi Arabia, well aware of his notoriety. Both we at the Commission and the FBI have interviewed him and investigated evidence about him. Al-Bayomi is a devout Muslim, obliging and gregarious. He spent much of his spare time involved in religious study and helping run a mosque in El Cajon, about 15 miles from San Diego. It is certainly possible that he had dissembled about some aspects of his story, perhaps to counter suspicion. On the other hand, we had seen no credible evidence that he believed in violent extremism or knowingly aided extremist groups. Our investigators at the 9/11 Commission, who have dealt directly with him and studied his background, find him to be an unlikely candidate for clandestine involvement with Islamic